Another day, another situation where Panini has absolutely dropped the ball when it comes to a sports card release. This time it's Panini Optic Football first off the line, with some breakers hitting half a dozen, even 2 dozen downtowns in a single case of sports cards. This is absolutely insane because they're meant to be the case hit and only one is really meant to be found per case on average. But what we're seeing here is completely insane. Now, this is a story that's becoming quite tiresome because Panini dropped the ball all the time, and I really wasn't going to talk about it given that enough talking heads are actually out there doing that. But the reason why I'm touching on it is because a number of you guys want my thoughts, but then also Panini have come out with a statement that I want to talk through today because I think some of the things they've said have gone over, people's heads, and I don't think they truly understand how big of a problem this actually is. So I'll share my thoughts. You guys can bear with me, and then we'll discuss down in the comments below as we always do. Now, I'll reference the Collectibles Guru here because he's got it more concisely documented than anybody else. But since the release of Panini Optic Football, so this was first off the line, it released a few days ago, if I remember correctly, you're basically having breakers, and I think they've documented at least 8 as at August 1st. It's currently August 3rd here in Australia. And you've basically had at least 8 breakers hit, numbers that are absolutely insane. And this is the number of downtowns pulled by a breaker within a single case. So Backyard Breaks hit 25, Hobby House hit 25, We the Hobby 24, Elite Rips 25, 238 cards, etc., etc. You guys can read it for yourself. And this is wild because these are obviously meant to be the case hit. So in the past, there was 1 per case. Sometimes I think we've seen examples of 2, maybe 3 being hit. But for the most part, it's only meant to be 1. So the fact that you've got people hitting 24 is nuts. I think Little Pullman hit his 55 across 3 cases. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong down below. But again, these are what these breaks are basically hitting. And it's just insane. These are meant to be the case hit. These are meant to be the chasers. And it sort of raised a lot of suspicions around, what Panini did with the checklist. Maybe they changed the approach with downtowns, and there's actually a heck of a lot more being printed these days than what is meant to be. It turns out that's maybe not the case because Panini came out with a statement that reads as the following. Now, firstly, it's pretty surprising we actually got a response from Panini. Normally, you don't hear anything from them. But what they say is early this week, they became aware of the issue manufacturing with the first of the line Donruss Football Optic and a collation issue related to the downtown insert. Collation meaning putting maybe too many cards into single cases, which is obviously what is happening. After conducting a 72-hour on-site audit at a new print manufacturer, we found that there was an error during manufacturing. The audit revealed that this issue was isolated, affecting a small number of first-of-the-line cases where extra content was included in some of these cases. But there was no shortage of any content in the first-off-the-line boxes sold. The rest of the Donruss Football Optic manufacturing and pack-out was normal and unaffected. Now, these 2 statements here are quite confusing. I think this is where people are sort of misunderstanding where the error actually occurred with Panini. I think the first part here that I thought is pretty interesting is that it was an isolated issue affecting a small number of first-of-the-line cases, which is pretty surprising considering, they basically all happened to go to the big-time breakers. The cases that had the issue happened to go to these breakers. That seems pretty coincidental and suspicious in my opinion. So I'm curious that it's only a select few cases. In that case, it raises lots of questions around, conspiracy theories and all that. But the other piece here that I think is pretty telling is where they say, but there was no shortage of content in any of the first-of-the-line boxes sold. And I think it's key that they're referring to first-of-the-line boxes and not cases here, because that obviously means that cases were missing these hits, because it had to have happened, right? These extra downtowns had to come from somewhere. And the fact they've mentioned boxes here, but cases here and cases here tells me that there are cases out there that were missing downtowns, because they didn't say there was cases missing these, they said boxes. That's pretty crystal clear. And I think a lot of people have missed that because these extra downtowns, like I said, have to come from somewhere. So when you think about the potential number of first-of-the-line cases being sold, and you add up basically all these extra downtowns, where in the past there would have only been 1 or 2 per case for each of these, where the heck are these other, 200 and 250, whatever it is, downtowns, where have they come from? And where were they meant to have gone? Is there really that many first-of-the-line cases being sold? I'm not entirely sure, but if there is, there's a lot of people out there that have maybe bought these cases that are not going to hit one, that have an opportunity here to say, Panini, what the heck are you doing? What have you done? This makes no sense. Now, obviously, when I first saw this news, my thought went to retail and hobby product and took the assumption that, okay, well, maybe they accidentally produced all the downtowns to go into the first-of-the-line cases rather than hobby and retail. But this last statement here tells me otherwise, where they go on to say the rest of the Donruss Football Optic manufacturing and pack-out was normal and unaffected, meaning that whatever downtowns they had allocated to go into hobby and retail are exactly as they should be. which again fills the theory around what they've done here, right? They've basically had first-line cases missing these completely. But I want to hear you guys and your thoughts down below, because this one's obviously a complete mess. It's nothing new. We've seen very similar issues with Topps when it came to the duplicate one-of-ones and product just being absolutely missing from the release altogether. So it's not new for trading card companies, but it's still one of those things that I find incredibly shocking in 2024 that these mistakes can still happen. You know, Panini are using a new print manufacturer, a new printing facility. The one they were using historically is now owned by Fanatics, which is why they've looked to change a lot of what it is they're doing. And I think in their antitrust lawsuit against Fanatics, they mention the fact that they own the printing facility and they think there's some kind of espionage, corporate espionage going on there. But it's just an interesting one, and I want your guys' thoughts down below. Like, obviously, you're going to have customers here affected in some capacity, and this statement from Panini is pretty piss poor in my opinion, because I think they could have made things a heck of a lot more clear. The fact that you could sort of read this on Twitter and also where it's posted elsewhere, and people are very confused as to what exactly went wrong, it tells you all you need to know about the situation. I think you've got some people saying here, like, how did an error that changed the odds not change the outcome of other products? It goes to, like I said, the fact that they're mentioning first-of-the-line boxes here and not cases. That's pretty clear that Panini have come out and said they've stuffed up the situation and, you know, have cases out there that are missing these hits. The boxes themselves have the same odds from when you bought them, but cases are in fact missing them, which, you know, then therefore changes that or contradicts what I just said, right? You know, not every box had an equal chance to get one of these in the end, which is really unfortunate. And people have a just, you know, argument to go to Panini and say, what the fuck is going on kind of thing. Now, the other potential theory with this as well is that maybe Panini accidentally printed too many downtowns, and apologies for the stutter, but that's just another thought to have on this situation too. But again, they've talked to it as being a collation issue and not, you know, a printing issue, and saying it's only affected a few of these cases. Cases where extra content was included. In some cases, boxes sold, not affected. So again, I think I made my point pretty clear. It's just a weird one. And it's one of those things that I think we're going to see a lot more of, not just from Panini, but for Topps too. They're constantly pushing this, you know, agenda of wanting to maximize revenue and all that kind of thing. And people are jumping at the chance to spend this ridiculous amount of money on this sort of stuff. And they're just going to keep getting pushed higher in terms of the pricing, and the quality is just going to keep getting worse, which is going to be a surprise to many. People reacting to this story has been pretty funny to watch, to be perfectly honest with you. People are sort of shocked and in uproar. But like I sort of said at the start, this stuff is becoming very tiresome, because we've covered this story countless times over the last 3 years that this channel has existed. And you know, I was one of the few people doing it 3 years ago, and people would see it and say, you're an idiot. Why are you talking about this sort of stuff? Why are you calling for these companies to be better? But it's like, well, it's 2024 and you're still seeing it. So that's why I was doing it. And all the people that are jumping up and down about it now, it's like, why weren't you doing it 3 years ago? It's pretty funny to me in that situation from that perspective as well. But I want to hear your thoughts down below. Yes, I do say that a lot, but I'm actually really keen. You guys know that I like to discuss down in the comments. I just thought this was an interesting one, and something that I needed to clarify. Like I just said about what Panini exactly said within their statement. They've clearly come out and said that boxes didn't have impacts, but cases obviously did, because they've put too many hits into a few cases. It just raises a heck of a lot more questions around, well, why did these cases be the ones that ended up at these breakers? Because so far I've not read anything about a person that has bought a case, or a hobby shop has bought a case and then busted it and then basically got all these downtowns themselves. It looks like it's primarily breakers were the ones that got these, which seems incredibly suspect. So, you know, as always, share your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.